before you start typing in them damn comments, before you start typing, breathe. Okay, let's just have a civil discussion. All right. I don't hate Gilmore Girls, the show. If I hated the show, I wouldn't continue watching it. But I don't like the characters. That's not a new opinion on the internet. So instead of beating a dead horse, we're going to talk about the few opinions that I have while watching Gilmore Girls. If you don't know me, hi, my name is Deborah, student, singer, songwriter, and everything else in between. I do a little commentary on my favorite TV shows and movies. And I make music, stay cute, and I exist. Okay. Everyone and their mom has been talking about the Gilmore Girls. Thanks to TikTok and, of course, the TikTokification of a lot of early 2000s and 90s shows. Basically, everywhere you go on TikTok, you cannot breathe without seeing the Gilmore Girls. So right now I've watched season 1, and I'm not even fully done with season 2, but like the like I have to tell somebody. I don't dislike everyone in the show. I just dislike a few people, and I have official beef with them, but I'll still watch. You know what I'm saying? Okay. If you guys want more commentary, please let me know. I'm going to finish season 2 like this weekend. I will talk about some aspects of season 2 in this video. I'll do a season 2 and a season 3 commentary in the next video. I need to talk to somebody about the show. I need to. And it's also keeping me busy while the Summer I Turned Pretty is coming together, and I'm trying to compile the episodes for you guys as well. So yeah, if you guys like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. Without further ado, let's get into it. Period. Let's talk about the things I actually do like about the Gilmore Girls. The aesthetic is very clear. Autumn, small town, fall, coziness, warmth, excessive amounts of coffee, and just small town living basically. And also a little bit of high society, upper echelon living as well. All in between. And that's right up my alley. Like, again, I love mindless escapism through our characters. Like, I don't mind. That's right up my alley. Granted, for me personally, I'm not an autumn person. I'm actually very much a spring person. I love spring. And I don't necessarily feel connected to autumn, but as I go on social media, a lot of people love this aesthetic. A lot of people love the coziness of it. I mean, you see it in Rory's wardrobe. A lot of it is cozy sweaters, long sleeve t-shirts, and definite notes of dark academia and light academia as well. Not to mention the romanticization of overachievers. I see a lot of it, the romanticization of academia, and basically that is literally all of Rory's personality, which we will get into later. It has an aesthetic of its own. Do I necessarily love the aesthetic? For me, no, but I totally understand why people are so into the show. It gives warmth. I think we're living in a generation right now which we long for warmth, love, nostalgia, and I think a small town vibe really does that for a lot of us. Stars Hollow is not really doing much. In fact, it's not really interesting as a town to begin with. I mean, there's literally nothing happening, and I know that in real life, if it was me, I would not want to live in Stars Hollow. But the way it is portrayed through Lorelai and Rory, there's a sort of escapism that comes with that. And I can totally appreciate that. And I think for the shows that we were getting in the 2000s, there were a lot of shows that weren't really focused on the small town aesthetic. I also think it's an amazing coincidence that I started talking about spring and rainy weather, and it just started raining outside of my window, which is perfect. I love ambiance. But anyway, let's get into it further. The narcissistic mother. I love the portrayal of the narcissistic mother. I do. Even though she's not coined as a narcissistic mother, we all know Emily Gilmore is a narcissist to her core. I have never seen a mother that has no empathy. And I recently just watched an episode. I watched the debutante ball episode, which I've been seeing everywhere on TikTok, right? Her husband, Richard, was complaining about the fact that she never really cares about what he's really doing and just really cares about appearances. And that is a narcissistic mother to the core. Like, and even though Richard was pouring out his heart and trying to tell her like this account was important to him and he's clearly having a life crisis, she was just like, so what? I'm sorry. Huh? Like, what? I was so upset. I was so upset when she said that. I thought for once we were finally going to have a breakthrough with Emily Gilmore. I guess not. So I definitely do love the portrayal of the narcissistic mother and how it can really, really cause generational trauma, and Lorelai trying to break that. Like, that's the only time, or maybe the second time, I'll give Lorelai a compliment, because I have a lot of beef with her as well. I beef with everyone in the show, but for different reasons. Those are the things I do like. Let's talk about the things that I don't necessarily like, but I think are interesting points to discuss. And let's get into it. We're going to talk about the few characters that I want to rant about for a bit. And our number one victim, Lorelai Gilmore, the OG. Lorelai Gilmore. She's an interesting character, right? I mean, if we look at how her life has turned out, she basically grew up very privileged in a very wealthy family with a narcissistic mother. So I completely understand her choices in leaving the family and making sure that she has nothing to do with them and she's not dependent on them in any shape or form. I cannot imagine having a mother as Emily Gilmore, who's constantly controlling her life and is so nitpicky and is so critical. And I actually thought to myself, imagine if the show hadn't gone the way it went and it actually focused on Lorelai living with her parents and following the way Emily Gilmore wanted her life to go. We would have gotten a very, 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 very sad version of Lorelai, and she possibly would have become her mother, and she possibly could not have had a close relationship with Rory, which would make Rory an even more annoyingly complicated character, which would have been terrible overall. So I actually really like the fact that it's portrayed that she was strong enough to leave her family and make a life of her own, even though she got pregnant in 16. However, Lorelai Gilmore does irk me as a person. Outside of the fact that it's admirable that she created a life for herself, she has a lot of traits that get on my last nerve, okay? And unfortunately, Rory has a lot of those traits as well. Lorelai is a bit too stubborn sometimes. And sometimes I feel like her stubbornness gets in her way of making good decisions. Lorelai is a little bit of a know-it-all sometimes, and sometimes she sticks her own foot in her own mouth very, very quickly. She can also be very judgmental very, very quickly in certain scenes because she comes from an environment in which women did not necessarily work and live a frivolous life because they are, of course, privileged enough to do so. She tends to be very critical on women who also have that similar lifestyle, which a fair criticism could be given to them, but I also think it's a little hypocritical of her. You know what I mean? You would think that somebody who comes from her situation with such a mother could be a little bit more understanding and also has learned over time to build her self-confidence and not waver every time she sees a woman that is as beautiful as her. The reason that it irritates me so much is because I just watched the episode in season 2. Lorelai joins the committee. What is it? It's not the Buffs. It's something else. I forgot the name of the committee, but I'll put it down below. And basically, she joins them because she's finally asked to participate, thank God. And she joins this group of women, and one of these women who are, of course, beautiful, she establishes the fact that she's interested in Luke, and Lorelai immediately becomes threatened. Immediately. And has the audacity to ask Luke to not date her, which we're going to get to in a second because I want to save that for later. That is a separate problem on its own. It's things like that that really, really irk me about Lorelai's character. And I hope as I continue watching through the seasons that her character gets better on that and it progresses and she becomes more self-assured of herself, which leads me to my second point. Lorelai and her relationships with men, specifically Luke. So it's established that Lorelai's, like most serious relationship, was with Rory's father, Christopher, and they were very much teenage lovers, and she became pregnant and she had Rory. As a result, it's until now, at least, because I'm still in season 2, it's only established right now that she's been interested in Christopher, Luke, Max Medina, which, that was an abrupt ending, my God. Anyways, so there seems to be a pattern to how Lorelai juggles men. And I guess you could say that as a testimony of the fact that she still has not matured enough in that mentality. But let's start with our first, should we say victim or should we say person? Let's say person. Let's start with our first person, Luke. Lorelai likes Luke, right? She's interested in him. And fair enough, Luke is a very closed off person, but he's very interested in her as well. And it becomes very clear that they have a friendship. But we all know that their friendship lies in between a deep attraction for one another. But of course, Luke is still very much entangled with Rachel, and Lorelai cannot move on to that. So she just keeps around Luke the whole entire time, which fair. Like if a guy is still somewhat in a relationship and still interested in someone, you don't want to be the person that gets in between that. So I give her that. I will be fair in that regard, right? But Lorelai seems to have a problem with how she juggles men. She dates Max Medina, which Max Medina, in my personal opinion, was a little bit pushy with the whole marriage thing. The thing is, I think it's just the way the show is written. But like, it really irritates me how she kind of strings Max along and then kind of parades him in front of Luke, which irritates me to the core. She knows that she's interested in Luke, but she goes with Max Medina. She actually likes him. She's interested in him. He goes a little too fast for her. And she tries to establish it, but she's not really affirmed in her boundaries. And they go ahead, he proposes, and they're about to get married, and then she calls it off. Which, again, fair. She should have called it off. But instead of just having an adult conversation with him, she decides to drive off with Rory to go to Harvard. That's not a mature thing to do, right? And I think maybe what the show is trying to do is to establish that even though Lorelai is a mother, she's not fully mature as a person. And it becomes painfully obvious. And I think that's what irks me a little bit is because sometimes I'm like, Lorelai, babes, you could have handled that better. You could have done that better. You were an adult. And the fact that she decides to handle that by going to Harvard instead of having a mature discussion with him, girl, come on now. Like, another layer that really made me irritated was when the debutante ball happened. And mind you, my girl is fresh off an engagement. And she's established the fact that Christopher was not around for Rory and he was not mature. And now that he is maturing and he's finally putting himself together, she kisses him and she wants the relationship to kind of continue, which like doesn't make any sense to me because you've established that this man was not really involved with you and your daughter. And it's like, isn't that kind of counteractive to go back to your baby daddy who kind of like wasn't really around as he should have been at the beginning, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it really irked me when she did that. I was like, girl, seriously? Like, didn't you just establish that you would be co-parents? I mean, literally that episode where Christopher came to, I forgot the name of the episode, but he came to town to see Rory and he wanted to buy her a dictionary and he knew that he didn't have money. He knew that the business wasn't working out. And he still paraded there as if he had the funds for it. And he was still an irresponsible douchebag. And they had a whole entire squalor about it. And now she's just back kissing him? Like, girl, did you forget? Because men don't change like that. What is you doing? I don't understand. Anyways, another aspect that really pisses me off about Lorelai, because we're here, how she really expects Luke to be available for her. As if he's not a complicated man with his own complicated problems. Like, because of the fact that they've established this friendship situation, she always kind of expects him to be there for her and to be there at her beck and call and do everything for her and also listen to her and everything. And I think that is so self-involved. But basically, it really pisses me off. And I think that's one of the reasons why I don't like her immediately. And because we are following Stars Hollow through their perspective, it is so self-involved of you to ask somebody not to date somebody else because you are feeling threatened by their presence. Child, I can't deal with everyone in the show. For real. Like, look. I understand, again, Luke is a complicated person, but let the man know that you're interested in him because he's also very, 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 very clueless. Yeah, those are my biggest qualms of the character. But anyway, Rory. So in season 1, I actually did like Rory. I'm still okay with her. Is she someone that I root for? Like, yes, girl, go girl, hashtag girl boss, hashtag slay queen. I want to, but I don't fully support her. I don't know why. Rory she has her moments. She has her moments where I'm like, that was funny. I like that, you know? I mean, she's a normal teenager. She's just trying to exist. And this whole entire town is super obsessed with her and her mother. And she's just in this environment where everyone's calling her perfect. And she is just like this overachieving, high academic kid. So like, I also understand like she's 16 or I think 15. Yeah, 16. And I'm just going to give her the grace of, because when I was a teenager, I was making terrible decisions too. So I completely understand. Okay. One of the reasons that I don't fully support or cannot fully support Rory is because there's no personality to support. Does that make sense? Okay. See, Rory, and I can see why her character was set up for a downfall later down the line. It is because Rory doesn't have a distinct personality. She's this perfect kid who gets good grades, reads, does what she's told. Her grandparents love her. The whole town loves her. Everyone loves her and supports her decisions. But it's like, outside of that, she loves music and she loves reading and she's trying to go to Harvard and that's it. But there's no complexity in her character. And I wanted to say that, because she's 16, you can't really expect someone to have that kind of complexity. But no, that's not true. The majority of teenagers that we watch on television have some complexity to their characters. They can be messy at times and you're like, oh girl, no. But like you still support them. You know what I mean? Like for example, you know what other character that we can look at that I still root for, who's messy, but who's a depiction of a teenager? Davy. Davy is a messy teen. She's a messy teen and she makes mistakes and she does some stupid ass shit, but I still root for her. She's a high academic, overachieving child. She does way too much, but I still root for her. Why? Because she has personality. She has sass. She has some good fun lines. Yes, she's an overachiever, but she also has some flavor to her. Like she's a character. She's a character that you are confronted by and you want to support. But with Rory, I don't really get that. And I understand that's not really the whole point of Gilmore Girls, but it makes it hard. It makes it hard to like Rory. You know what I mean? Because she's not a realistic teenager. No realistic teenager really behaves like that fully. I mean, I was even a good kid, quote unquote, when I was in school. But like, I even had more going on in my life than that. She doesn't give me emotion. She doesn't make me want to cry for her. Like when she has emotional scenes, I don't really care. I don't. It doesn't grab me. It doesn't touch me in the feels. Even when she cries, I'm like, I'm sorry for you, babes, but I feel nothing. You know what I mean? I don't know if, I'm pretty sure other people feel like this, but I was trying to understand why I don't fully like Rory, you know? But that's why. There is no distinct personality. That's just my opinion though. You guys can change my opinion in the comments. Anyways, child, I'm tired. And my voice is starting to hurt after screaming into my microphone about these characters for a hot minute. If you guys want me to continue these breakdowns, please let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching my videos. Again, super happy that there's 2,000 of us here. That's amazing. Let me know what shows I should comment down on below. I also got a request for Ginny and Georgia, and I think I might just do that as well, because I heard there's a season 3 coming out, and I actually haven't seen it. But let me know if you want to break down for that below, and I will put that on my list of things to talk about. But otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye.